All right. Hello there. Hopefully this is working out. Let me know if you can hear me okay if you happen to be tuning in when I'm doing this live. I'm using this microphone right here, and I'm not sure if Facebook can really deal with interfacing with external mics, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to get right to the point, and then I'm going to talk about kind of the evidence that I have for the things that I'm sharing with you. I've been sitting on something for a couple weeks, and not really sure if it's something that I wanted to share, if it was relevant, and if I wanted to be responsible for sharing it. But I've decided, oops, I'm being told something needs to change. Current frame rate is too low. I don't care. All right, it either works or it doesn't. So I've been sitting on something for a couple weeks, and I'm not really sure. Haven't been really sure if I wanted to share it, but I think it needs to happen, and I think that it's something that people need to know and kind of be ready for. And to get right to the point, I think we're going to see some insane levels of inflation this year. Now, if that's all you need, then you can move along and do whatever you want to do with that information. But I'm going to share a couple more things. Actually, this is going to be probably a pretty long video full of things that I want to share around that. So, why should you listen to me? Or should you listen to me? And I think the answer is not really. Not really. I'm going to share with you my experiences. And these are experiences that, while they only cover the last couple years, there have been experiences like them for most of my life. I have pretty much devoted my life to listening and to trying to pay attention to what's coming and preparing myself in a way that I can be a conduit that can share information with other people. So a lot of what I'm going to share the reasons why I believe that we're about to hit a very high level of inflation, something that will change our lives probably forever. Some of us, a few of us, will be better off because of it. Most of us will not be better off. Most of us will be worse off. And I think that we're going to end up with a bifurcation of the middle class and some smaller percentage. The minority of middle class may rise in this process, and the majority, I think, will fall. Um, so let's get right to it. 2 years ago, I made a video about COVID, and I made the video around March 10th, March 11th, and I published it on March 13th. I sat on it for a couple days. I wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to share, but I was freaked out about COVID because nobody really knew much of anything. All we knew is that Chinese people were falling in the streets. They were just passing over dead, like just falling over dead in the streets, which was pretty suspicious. And we never really got to the bottom of that, did we? Never really found out why there was video of Chinese people collapsing while walking down the sidewalk, and why we were told that was a thing called coronavirus. But it worked, didn't it? That was scary. And I was also thinking maybe this is the thing, right? I've been expecting something for a long time and preparing for some kind of economic collapse or great reset for a long time. And I woke up one day with a very strong inclination. This is not the thing you're looking for if you're looking for an economic collapse. Or, yeah, that was basically the message. But the follow up to that seemed to be, but the next thing will be. So I published that video on March 13th. Even of course, the mainstream media wasn't saying this at the time, and even alternative media wasn't saying "don't panic" at the time. Even alternative media was afraid of what this might be, and so I didn't hear anybody else saying this. And so for me to kind of put my reputation on the line about something that could have been absolutely devastating, that could have been deadly, that if for some reason someone saw fit to listen to me, and they did, that and they were wrong and said, I'm just going to go out in public and live a normal life and die, that I would have some sense of responsibility for that. but I shared it because it was really strong in me to share it. And the other things, there's a couple other things I said. I said, I said the death rate would be about the same as the flu, maybe less, maybe more, and that I would be shocked if it was above 0.3%. At the time, everyone was saying 2%. And so I was saying basically a tenth of that, somewhere around that area. It turned out to be right. Turned out that there was no economic collapse from the coronavirus. Now, there were some things I got wrong in that video, and I'm going to share a video that really, where I hold myself accountable for every single thing that I said. But the reason that I'm telling you about this is that I don't go public with a lot of predictions. I post some doom and gloom on Facebook. I share some things with people. Watch out for this and that, and yo, this is what's coming, and all that kind of stuff. And in some ways, it served me pretty well. This approach, in some ways, it's also occupied a lot of my time and my mind. But I don't go around just making predictions every day. I'm not somebody who's posting videos or has a following, or it's not my job to constantly make people listen to me about what I think is going on in the world or what's coming. I don't do this very often. I did it 2 years ago. I did a follow-up video about vaccines and basically how I view ourselves, us as people, and our relationship to our freedoms and to the government. And that's pretty much it. And here I am today sharing this one. And, I kind of didn't want to share this because the whole thing about inflation, because I don't want to be responsible for other people's actions. And I don't want to deal with this stuff later if I'm wrong. That's a pain. I would rather just keep quiet and be quietly right and then, have no effect than be publicly wrong, deal with all that. So we'll get to why I'm sharing this. A lot of what I get is intuition or divine guidance. I don't really know. Whatever speaks to me, whatever relationship I have with whatever is outside of space and time that seems to be guiding me and taking me through life, that it's the main source of how I live my life. The big decisions that I make are intuitive or divinely guided. They're not logical. They're not based on a formula. I'm very formulaic when it comes to the execution of things, but when it comes to the decisions, the larger decisions I make in my life, I'm not. And with that intuitive divine guidance, over the last 5 years financially, things have worked out really well for me. I've been listening. I've been zigging when other people were zagging. And it's been stressful, but it's worked. So let's go to October of 2021. I was getting the sense that it was time to get out of the crypto market, to take a pause, that things were getting a little hot. Now, everyone around was saying, no, we're just getting started. Everybody pile in at 60,000, right? We're just getting started. Next stop, $100,000 for Bitcoin. But I decided, after trying to listen well, that it was time for me to get out at 64. To take, some of my position out. And honestly, the second part of the position, I felt like I should have taken, I felt inclined to take at 68, which was the absolute top. I didn't do it. I didn't have the nerve to do it. But when I got out of half my position, those days are very stressful. I don't make trades very often, maybe once a year, sometimes once every 2 years. It's very rare. And it can be very stressful because so much is on the line. And I went and laid down. And as I was laying there, an image flashed in my mind. This is not normal for me. My intuitive or divine guidance is not usually with visions or images. It's usually other. Let's just say other. And I got an image of a graph. And that graph went like this from I think from your perspective. It went a little bubble. It was a little bubble up, a little bubble down, and then straight up. With no top, no end. I didn't see any of that. And I thought, wow, is this a Bitcoin graph? And then I got the sense that on that, let's see, I'll make sure I'm doing this right for you guys. On that up part, that little first arc that we were about to hit the top at 64, and boom, and then we're going to come back down. There's going to be a smooth bottom and then right back up. And came with that was a sense, like an inclination. Can you wait on those purchases that you're going to make? Like hold off on those purchases. So I did, and Bitcoin immediately came down, and now it's looks like a smooth bottom to me. So I think it's a good time for me to get back in. You can do what you want with that. But I started thinking, what would make Bitcoin go through the roof like that? Just suddenly spike, like 5x, 10x, in a way that was so quick that you might not even have time to move your money from your bank account into your exchange. That 3-day window, you might miss a ton of action. Like what would make that happen? It's like, I don't know. I guess a lot of things could make that happen, right? So that was one thing that happened. The second thing that happened, obviously we all know that assets are rising, prices of things are rising, right? Real estate, it doesn't take a lot to sit here and go, I think we're going to hit inflation. Yeah, everybody knows that. It's already here. Cars are more expensive, probably because there's not very many of them available for whatever reason. The chip excuse doesn't resonate with me. I think there's some other reason why we're not getting cars. But we all know that things are expensive right now, right? So like, to me, that's the equivalent of being a prison prophet, right? And telling people, tomorrow, I foresee you waking up in a cell. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, this day and every day and for everybody. It doesn't take much to say we're going to hit inflation. Everybody's saying that now. So I get it. But yes, asset prices are rising. I also got the sense last year that taxes on income that I made were not going to matter. I got the sense that I could get in and out and make trades as much as I want without worrying about the huge implications tax-wise of making short-term trades, which if you're not familiar with short-term capital gains, it's insane. It's insane. It would have, I don't know what the percentage would have been, 30%, 40%. It makes it not worth making those decisions. It makes it not worth being active in your trading. But I kept getting the sense that don't worry about that. That's not going to be an issue. Why? Why would that not be an issue? I mean, the IRS is still going to be here, right, next year. I'm still going to have to pay my taxes, right? But it just kept coming back to, you're not going to have to worry about that. So right now, what I'm going to do, if it's even possible, let's see if it's possible, to share, there I am, talking, cool. I'm going to share an attachment to the video that I made last year, so that it's down here and y'all can check that out whenever you want to. All right, I made this 2 years ago. This was the coronavirus video, and I will do a follow-up to talk about where I was right and where I was wrong. All right. So why wouldn't taxes matter? I don't know. I couldn't answer that. And then recently, I also had a sense that that it was time to get into debt again. Now, if you go back and watch my other video about a truck that I purchased 2 years ago in March or April of 2020, when everyone was freaking out, I did a live video like, I just bought this truck. I don't know why I just bought this truck. I have a perfectly good truck, but I bought one anyway. I don't know why, but it just seemed like the right move. And 100% on credit. Ended up being a fantastic move. I will do a follow-up video on that too. That truck, me buying that truck at that time, not only did that truck pay for itself entirely, I sold the truck a year and a half later, by the way, with 30,000 miles on it, wore out the back tires, put a dent in the side of it, and sold it back to the dealership for about the same price that I bought it for because of the shortage. Not only that, but they gave me $10,000 when I bought that truck at 0% interest that I invested. Okay. So the money that I made buying that truck uh, was fantastic. It worked out really well, and it was counterintuitive. It was that whole idea of running toward the dragon when everybody else is running away, zigging when everyone else is zagging. And I went for it, and it worked out. Now, there's something else about that time that was very important. That whole season, and I talk about this in the coronavirus video, which is this is a shot across the bow. This is preparation for what's coming. This isn't the thing that's going to be the problem that we think it is or that we're afraid of it is. Don't worry, this isn't the thing. Let this be the thing that prepares you for the thing that is coming. And I'm starting to feel like that debt experience was also preparation for something larger, a bigger moment when debt would even be more valuable to me. And probably a couple weeks ago, I got the sense, go for it. Like, all in, take whatever you can get. And for me, that basically means uncollateralized debts. Means if I have any credit on my credit cards, use it. Buy whatever I want or whatever is going to be valuable to me. And because this is the perfect time to be in debt. So I'm trying to put a bunch of points on a graph about why I'm telling you that inflation is coming and what I think is super inflation, not necessarily hyper, which would be something like Venezuela, because there's a reason why I don't think we can have hyperinflation in this country in that way. And that's because all of our debt is in our own currency. So a lot of countries like Venezuela, the reason they go through super or hyperinflation is because in order to pay off their debt, they have to print their own currency to buy the currency that they're indebted to. So they'll borrow in US dollars and they have to pay back US dollars. In order to do that, they have to print their own money to pay that back when their economy isn't strong enough to pay it back with taxes. We're not in that situation. We can actually print our way out of debt, strangely enough. So I don't think we're talking about hyperinflation, at least not yet, just superinflation. And by superinflation, I mean it's very possible that the dollar against much of our purchases and assets will go down 80%. So it'll be worth about a fifth, maybe a tenth, within this year of what it's currently worth. And I'm trying to put some points on the graph to why I think that. Okay, that Bitcoin graph, why would it go through the roof like that if that image was actually real? Why would it do that? Well, it could do that because of inflation. Maybe Bitcoin's not going to go up in value in real value as far as how much food it can buy or how much it can, how much money it can go toward a car. But maybe it'll go up nominally against the dollar. The second thing, the idea that taxes wouldn't matter last year. How is that possible? Well, it's possible if my tax burden is in US dollars, but US dollars are worthless, then I could throw the government any amount of money I wanted to and say, oh, fine. Oh, how much taxes do you want? That's cool. Not a problem because these dollars are useless and I'm carrying them almost by the wheelbarrow anyway. So here's your tax money, which has no effect on me because my assets would have improved in value so much compared to the US dollar. That would be very easy to pay. The next thing, the debt. Debt suggests the last time I chose debt was because assets that I was going in debt for were going up against the US dollar in a way that made it really useful to do that. And all these things are happening right now. They're all pointing toward massive amounts of inflation. Here's the other thing. This is a real world situation. This is something more solid that there seems to be a partnership for me when I'm having these experiences and when I'm getting these inclinations about how I should be, the choices I should be making in my life. There seems to be a partnership, and I'll get often a what but not a why for that. I talk about that in the truck video. I really recommend you go back and watch that because it was happening live. There was no editing to go back and make it look good. It was just what I was experiencing in the moment. So the what? right? But not the why. And sometimes the why, well, if I want to try to solve that puzzle, it's up to me to do so. If I want some kind of real world evidence that whatever is talking to me outside of space and time is accurate, then I can look into that myself using my own mind and my own skill set and things like that. So here's one of the things that I was concerned about when this Ukraine war kicked off. Um, I was concerned that Russia and those who supported Russia might possibly dump the US dollar. As many of you know, the US dollar is used for international trade, it's used for purchasing oil. Even as far as I know, the Chinese have to hold US dollars to purchase oil from Saudi Arabia. So that creates a high demand for US dollars, which means there's a lot of dollars in the world that we don't use here in the US that are not necessary for our economy. And if all those dollars that people were trading in between Russia and China, China and Saudi Arabia, Russia and Iran, all these different places that are trading in US dollars, if they didn't need that anymore, if they decided we're not trading in US dollars, they would all sell their US dollars, get rid of them, and they would all basically come flooding home. And the value of the dollar would plummet. So I was concerned this might be a setup. This might be a setup. The real war might be an economic one against the US dollar. Then I found out that Russia said, we're dumping our US dollars. We're getting rid of them. And we're encouraging our people to do the same thing by taking taxes off of gold. There used to be a 20% tax in gold in Russia. That has been suspended so that the people in Russia who are using US dollars, they're holding US dollars as a saving, as a form of savings, because the ruble is not very stable. And it's failed miserably many times over the last 100 years. So a lot of Russians hold US dollars as savings or as a hedge against inflation. And the government was basically saying, time to dump those US dollars, buy gold instead. That was the first thing. Now, it's not just Russian US dollars coming home to the US that would cause superinflation in the US. It's the speculators on all of the markets around the world who see the writing on the wall or suspect something's coming, who want to get ahead of the curve and then dump their position in US dollars before Russia can fully dump its, or its people can dump their position. It's the speculators who are saying, oh, I see gold going up now, right? I see the dollar going down, so I'm going to sell the dollar and buy gold. And they would have a huge impact on the economy, or on the US dollar, the value of the dollar. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about all of this because in that video 2 years ago, I said this coronavirus is not the event you're looking for if you're looking for an economic collapse. But the next one probably will be the next event. And I've been waiting to see what is that next event, and was I right? Because these inclinations, they're not ironclad. They don't come in a unscrolled parchment paper with calligraphy that spell out perfectly exactly what's going to happen, where I can go and look at it every day and go, okay, nope, yep, that's 100%, look, signed by God. His signature is right there. That's not how this works. And so there's a lot of doubt in this for me. There's a lot of considering. There's a lot of pacing around in places like my backyard, walking up and down the creek bed, and just listening and feeling and trying to get over the fear, trying to not let that become a part of this equation, trying to not let other people's panic have an effect on what I'm sensing, and just try to go deep enough to just sense the current that's beneath the storm, beneath the waves, and just be still and hear it. So I just want to keep in mind that that's why I'm talking about all this. Is this the event that's going to kick off the economic collapse? And is inflation going to be the thing that kicks off the economic collapse? So Russia is dumping its dollars. Its people are being encouraged to do so. And so when I saw that there were some countries that were not condemning Russia for its actions in Ukraine, that made me very curious about what was going to come next. And I saw it was the countries, as far as I know, that did not vote, did not agree with the UN resolution to condemn Russia for its part in attacking Ukraine or coming into Ukraine, whatever you want to call it. China, Pakistan, India, Iraq, and Iran. Saudi Arabia was an outlier. At first, they weren't willing to take a position, which surprised me because that's our ally, right? Supposedly, we own them, right? Or we have a relationship that's so tight with them that, they wouldn't cross us, right? We trade our debt for their oil. We have a good agreement with them. They weren't ready. They weren't willing to condemn Saudi or Russia for this. But in the UN resolution, they did sign on to the UN resolution. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been having conversations with people, basically saying, I'm concerned that these supporters of Russia are all going to get together and decide, screw the US dollar, we're going to start trading in a different currency. Keeping in mind, what would make Bitcoin go up? What would make taxes not an issue for last year? Why do I get the sense that the train is leaving the station, Bitcoin-wise, that it's about to go through the roof? Why would I be getting into debt right now? Keeping all those points in mind, my thought was, well, it's very possible that Russia will go on the Bitcoin standard, that it will become the reserve currency for Russia, or that all of these countries will start trading in some kind of gold-backed currency, Bitcoin-backed currency, or any other currency that doesn't need the US dollar in order to function. At that point, yeah, we're talking about superinflation at that point. So I've been sitting on this for 2 weeks, and this morning, the news comes out, and is this a rumor? I don't know, but it got me interested enough to share this video. The news came out that Saudi Arabia and China are talking about trading oil in Chinese currency now, not the US dollar. That's exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for. And that's kind of it. That's the reason for this video. I would say my best guess is 6 months. Within 6 months, I think a house that's $500,000 is probably going to be $2 or $3 million. Food, I don't know, because see, this doesn't even factor in shortages. We're not even talking about supply chain disruptions yet. This is just currency war. This is just way too many US dollars on the market and then becoming not worth much. So, what am I going to do? Why is debt the answer? This is something I forget that a lot of people are not aware of. Why is debt the answer? Those who profit constantly in this world from inflation that we normally experience any given year are those who borrow money to buy assets. They don't hold US dollars. They hold assets that are going to go up against the US dollar. And then they borrow more US dollars to trade for those assets. So here's an example of how it would work. Let's say in 6 months, the value of a dollar is going to go down. It'll be a fifth. Let's just say that it'll be a fifth of what it is today. So it'll go down 80% in value, right? Yeah. So it'll be worth 20% of what it is today. So a pickup truck's $50,000. In 6 months, a pickup truck would be $250,000. If you know that, then what you do is you leverage your debt. And let's say that you've got a lot of credit, and you can go out and you can buy 5 pickup trucks right now on credit. You pay 0% down, you just make some monthly payments for the next 6 months, and you have 5 pickup trucks. In 5 months, considering that they don't lose value, you don't drive them, right? So they're not depreciating. Go keep this simple. In 6 months, if the value is worth 1/5 of what it was, then each of those trucks is now worth $250,000 US dollars, but your debt on all 5 of them combined is only $250,000 because you bought them 6 months ago at those prices and you owe the debt in those prices. That means that you could sell one of those 5 trucks for 250 grand, pay back all of your debt on all 5 trucks, and you would own 4 trucks outright, free and clear. That's how debt works. That's how the rich use debt. Now, they don't use it, they don't make that as much money as that in a given year, but they make a lot of money in a given year. They borrow and they buy the things that they think are going to go up in value. Real estate, stocks, whatever it happens to be. So the reason that I'm sharing this is that I think it's time for me to go into debt, especially uncollateralized debt, where if I'm wrong about this, they're not going to foreclose on something that I own or keep an asset that I've leveraged against that debt. Now, what does that mean for you? It's up to you. It's up to you. This whole video is not an attempt to convince you of something. This video is an attempt to lay out the reasons why I believe what's coming is coming. And if you are getting some inclinations or getting a similar sense, then in a way, I just want this video to be permission for you to follow a crazy intuition that doesn't make logical sense to you, but that you can't seem to shake. Everybody's talking about inflation, right? Everybody's talking about it. My concern is that those who have no assets during this coming year are going to be really on the bad end of the stick. Those that have assets and can keep them, they'll be doing better. But even if you own a home, I'm here in Austin, Texas. That's where I live now. And it's not unusual. Like, I live in a normal home. It's probably $700,000 is the value, maybe $800,000, something like that. Austin markets, it's pretty insane. So let's say that I own this home outright, but I've got taxes to pay, right? And taxes in Austin are high, close to 2%. Property tax, it's really high. So let's say that's $14,000 a year. Well, let's say they reassess this house, and now suddenly the dollar is worth 20% of what it used to be, so they start charging you 5 times the amount of taxes because they say your house is worth 5 times as many dollars. So what's 1,400 times 5? 62,000? Something like that. 48, 28, 54, 68, 68,000. Okay, so then suddenly I owe $68,000 in taxes every year on a house that when I bought might have cost me $68,000. Can I afford to pay the taxes anymore on the assets that I own? Can I afford to make the monthly payment? Probably, because nominally also my income will probably go up for the jobs that exist. For the jobs that exist, income should go up. So I'm concerned about those that have assets that they can't service, that they can't pay the taxes on, that they can't pay the mortgage on, assets like cars that they can't pay the monthly payment on, and assets that require some amount of maintenance that have to be paid in US dollars, like the taxes on property. Some assets don't work that way. Bitcoin is one of those. There's no taxation on Bitcoin if you don't change that Bitcoin into dollars or other crypto, and you don't exchange it for anything. If you're just sitting on it, it doesn't get taxed. Now, will that change? That might change. The government might start charging you taxes on the assets you possess, not the assets that you sell. There's a lot of brain work that goes into this. There's a lot of guessing and wondering, and then what about the double cross and the triple cross, and what about the quadruple cross, right? That's something that's going on with Ukraine right now, is people are saying, oh, Putin came in, oh, he doesn't realize that US set a trap and NATO set a trap, and now he's stuck in there in a way like he can't get out without hurting his pride, so he's going to stay in, he's going to force a war, and we're going to take it to him. Oh, wait, but what if Putin knows that that's the trap, and the secret weapon is China, right? So he knows the trap has been set. He's walking into it thinking, letting them think that he doesn't know it's a trap, but he does know it's a trap, and he's got some backup on the other side. Well, then what if NATO knows he knows that it's a trap? You see what I'm saying? So it gets to the point of just ridiculousness. But there's always one question that it comes back to when I start spinning up these scenarios is, what am I supposed to be doing right now? When I get into that still space, when I get quiet, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Or what feels right for me right now? Turning off all the noise, all the screaming. Because whether or not someone's screaming the truth or they're screaming lies, better way to put that, whether or not someone is screaming the facts or screaming lies, they're not telling you the truth if what they're trying to do is make you afraid. So what is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? My invitation, I suppose, it's a very popular way to give people advice these days. It's a nice little spiritual bypass so that you don't feel like you're being told anything or what to do. I'm just inviting you to do exactly what I say, see? So my invitation to you today is to drop in, to get quiet, to get down to that gut level, beneath the head noise, beneath the throat tightness, beneath all of the storms and the waves, and ask yourself and whatever's out there, and just be open to an answer for what am I supposed to be doing right now? Because I think it's time to build an ark. And that's a biblical reference to Noah, by the way. There had never been a flood before. And Noah, if I remember right, spent 100 years building an ark. 100 years in an evil world where most people were not going to survive. And that's what he committed to. Good call. Good call. Is it time for us to be building an ark? Are we getting a sense like the animals during earthquake tsunamis, like in Sumatra, right? Or they all start running for the hills. You stop an elephant and ask it, hey man, where are you going? And why? He's not going to have the sense, even if he could speak English, to say, you know that earthquake that just hit? I have a feeling that some tectonic plates shifted off the coast somewhere, and I think it's probably going to created a tsunami that's on its way here in 20 minutes to an hour. I have a feeling that most of the coast is going to be flooded. It just ran for high ground. They just run for high ground. And one of the things about following divine guidance or intuition is that there's not a lot of ego in it. You don't get a big attaboy, a pat on the back. You don't get a medal for being, look how awesome I am. Look how great it feels that I'm right about things, because it's not me. It's not you. All we're doing is being quiet enough to listen and having the courage to follow whatever it is that's guiding us and leading us. There's not a lot of space for back patting in these scenarios. So that's my feelings, those are my thoughts today. I suppose I can see if I have any idea how to look at comments and see if anyone is sharing any comments. Good, no comments. Thank goodness. All right. I don't have to answer any questions. Feel free to share this video. It's long, so what? Y'all got something better to do? This is it. This is it. All right. Kind of a weird note to end a live video on is scolding people for not paying attention or listening or watching my whole video. Yeah, whatever. Have fun with it. Have a good day. If you have any questions, well, I think I shared everything I've got. And I just hope that things go well for y'all in this coming year. I hope you make good decisions. I hope you have the guidance that you need. I hope that you are able to move away from any fear. Although sometimes fear is the beginning of wisdom, and sometimes for those of us who won't respond to anything else, sometimes fear gets us moving in the right direction. So can I even say do not fear? I guess I can't say that. Maybe fear is what you need. Doesn't serve me well. But that's it. All right, guys. Have a good day.